What's good, everybody? The fantasy football playoffs are here, and we got you covered on tonight's AMA, all the way down to the Keenan Allen news and injury. But before that, Adam, you know what to do, baby.
Hit it.
Welcome to South Harmon. Welcome to South Harmon. Hey, welcome to South Harmon. We glad you here today. Another AMA. Ask me anything. Super chat is cool if you wanna pay to play. Like and subscribe, that's what we really appreciate. Let me introduce you to the tear down king. Mike McNutted, ask your questions, he'll answer anything. ATM, you know Adam put them graphics on the screen. Glad you tapped in now, stay tapped in for the team. Hey, everything is posted. Go follow the socials. South Harmon FF tag us if we get noticed. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today. Another AMA. Welcome to South Harmon, we glad you here today.
The Keenan Allen news just kicked you right in the balls, didn't it?
That was right in the gonads, buddy. It was it's been a while since I've really gotten kicked there, Mike. But playing sports or messing around, saying something to somebody you shouldn't have, you get a kick there. That thing kind of shoots up your intestines and all that. I had that same feeling. It was the first time I've had it in a while from this Keenan Allen one,
man.
buddy.
Yeah. You got a small child at your house, right? When they get about 3, 4, that perfect toddler stage.
Oh, I'll get another one, yeah, for sure.
You get 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. Prepare yourself, buddy.
I can live with it until it becomes intentional. Then we have a problem, right?
Yeah, that's true. You're talking about a guy who was a top warp option, not just at the wide receiver position, but in the whole league.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Week 15. Need him the most. Damn it. I'm sad, man. I sent out some offers. We'll see. But he makes it even hard to trade him.
Well, that's the problem with that's a great point. See, that's the problem with aging assets. And in the going for it stage, we're all for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what sucks about this part is for the majority of people playing, the deadline's done, right? So now you don't even have a pivot option in general. But this is why we talk about if you make a move for Keenan Allen or someone in that idea, that mold too soon, you get stuck holding the bag because there's no pivot options, right? Who wants to take on Keenan Allen even in a rebuild? I mean, you'll do it, but at what cost? You're not sending away anything of significance for an old, hurt receiver, right?
I think for some of my teams, my rebuilders, I might go see if I can buy if I got no trade deadline. Some of them, right?
Based on the cost that you're going to get to, which is going to be not very, friendly, right?
How about this? If you had a Tyler Lockett type, you're out of the playoffs. Would you send him for a Keenan Allen? Same age?
Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean, I think that'd be fine. The other crazy part is though, you would, if I'm in a rebuild there, right, and you want me to take on an old asset, I'll tell you what I'm doing every single time. Even if I say that's about the right pivot, you're gonna kick me in a fourth. You're kicking me in something. I'm gonna give you a little shot in the nuts, just on the way out too, right? Because if I'm gonna take on another aging asset that could both cliff, they both could cliff next year, and what happens, right?
True.
Right? If I'm giving you a healthy guy to go get in the playoffs with, you gotta let me get one shot, right? You got to give me the plus, right? I think that's fair.
I think it's fair. I could get behind that. I really could. Yeah, it stinks. I think, fortunately, only one of my teams has a Week 15 game, right? So I'm still holding out hope. Maybe it's just a one-week thing. And
one of your teams with Keenan Allen.
Yeah, one of my teams with
Keenan Allen. I was going to say that this man's in 20 leagues, in 20 playoffs, 19 buys, man, he's trying to say.
It's been a good year. Hadn't been that good. Dr. Ryan.
Bam.
Coming through right
early,
jump.
often.
Let's go.
Let's do it, man. It's playoff time. You got to spend to win, right?
Sometimes, man.
So,
All these video games now, man, are pay to win, ain't they?
The VC, Mike, I'm telling you, there's certain games I don't play no more because of that. It's just a rabbit hole of disaster for my.
Spend $99.99 so you can upgrade your NBA 2K player all the way to the top, buddy.
And then you get 3 days later, there's another $99.99 package out there.
That's right.
What? Yo, 10-team Superflex got lottery 101 to 104. A-Rich, Levis, Chase, Smith, Puka, Addison, DJ, Myers, no running backs, and Kittle. I love it. 24, 108 to 110. So you also have a lottery 101 to 104, plus the 108, 109, 110. The 202 and 325 first moves. All right. It's a super chat that I can get behind, and I like to earn it. Go. What are we doing here, Mike? So you're in this situation. All right. So 10-team. You already have A-Rich and Levis. You don't have a second quarterback option, but I'll be honest. In 10-team, I don't think quarterback's what I'm looking for in that lottery, unless all the other elite skill players are gone.
Yeah, I'd be going with Marv first, and then. But second choice, not too bad. Not
yeah.
too bad. Caleb.
I mean, if you told me Malik Neighbors, Mike, was a top 10 pick, I'd have to have a serious discussion on which one I want, and based on obviously too the reality of what my other options are at quarterback. In 10-team, I think they're a little more easily replaced, where the skill players are not. So I think like in 12-team, obviously we know it's a quarterback discussion, end of list. But in this format, I might have a little different discussion with what I pick at 104. Type if I
it's
got
not
it,
too bad because whatever quarterback he's going to end up with too. Even like say it's the 104, I probably wouldn't take Neighbors or Keon Coleman or Adunze over Jaden Daniels if he's a top 5, top 6 pick, kind of like they're projecting, right? Because I want to upgrade the Levis spot. I like Levis, but in 10-team Superflex, he's definitely not a hammer at the quarterback spot. So that would be my next choice. I don't give a shit if you ain't got running backs. Perfect. You built this thing great then.
No,
Who cares? You'll buy them later.
Well, because I think the reality of this, Dr. Ryan Cecil, is with the moves, right? I think because you got Chase, you got Puka,
Smitty, Addison.
And Smitty and Addison, I like them both. I think they're a little
DJ Moore.
I think, man, you're already really good at receiver, right? If I could get one more hammer in there, that's what I would be trying to do. But now I think the question you have to ask with these picks is really like, when you say moves, if you're ready to go, I think this team is probably on the ready to go side next year. So that's where you can start having the discussion on what you're taking at the 108 to 110 spot, the 202, and how you're going to get running backs in. I think I'm looking to buy cheap running back options. I'm not looking to invest a ton of my assets in the running back position in general in this format. So
I'm going to buy some cheap vets, right? Like, you find out that Austin Eckler's re-signing with the Chargers, right, and they don't do anything. Like, does that 202 become like, hey, can I buy Austin Eckler off somebody, right? You guys remember he was dead? Like, those are the kind of, like, cheap running back options that I'm trying to get. The Alvin Kamaras of the world, like these kind of dudes where you can get them for seconds. Shit, you get them, send the 108 and you get a nice plus on top of the running back, maybe like a 25 second or something like that back. Those kind of moves. That's what I'd be doing with the later picks. And then those 325 first, I'm just holding them until the right move comes. I'm buying a star, right, a stud that I can put in my lineup immediately. Like, that's going to be a hammer for me, or we just keep them as liquidity. Right, I don't have to push them all in. So that's kind of what I'm doing. That 101, 104. Hopefully it's Marv. If it's not Marv, then quarterback. I'm gonna just backfill.
Here's my thing. All right, so like, man, I wish I should have the screen share option up, but I don't right now. If you hit the Mind Warp, okay, I don't know how many are starting here. This one thing you left out, but the Mind Warp series we did, Scott and I, way back in the day, and right before the season, a 10-team. Start 9, right, with roster 22, okay? If you look, the wide receiver line is basically even or above the quarterback line every time, right? So I think about it, and the reason I say that, especially with, like, as much as Jaden Daniels, I'd like him in a 12-team. In a 10-team here like this, I don't know that he's ever even going to get me a top 12 quarterback option, and I don't know that the scarcity allows me to trade out of him. So that's where I think I would probably be looking more so to get into a receiver here, or trade that pick into a receiver. He puts this as my thoughts are to leverage picks to get another hammer at wide receiver. I'm probably looking, if I had this team, the way I'm looking at this, I'm going to either take if I can get Marv, awesome. If you can't, Obviously, I'm not going to just pass on a guy like Caleb even in this format, but I'm looking to probably package that pick if I don't get Harrison or I don't really feel great taking Neighbors with some of these other picks. Go get one more hammer receiver because you also have other receivers you can bring to the table, right? You could bring a Smith, you could bring an Addison, and go purchase up, and you just see the warp at the high end level at receiver in this format. That's what I would probably be looking to do, and then I'm just backfilling running back as cheap as I could. You can probably buy, Cousins types going into next year. You can buy like quarterbacks that are just going to keep me in this 18 range. That's probably what I'd like to do with my quarterback too, as opposed to invest a top 4 pick into it. I think you're mute. Either that or we lost you. He's back.
We're just starting out here.
That's early.
Number
We're good.
2. I don't mind that. That's not a bad strategy at all, right? The only thing I would caution you against is especially once you get past Marv into Neighbors or Keon Coleman, like the likelihood of those guys also putting up top 18 fantasy production seasons right out the jump.
Yep.
Very, 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 very unlikely. So
I would agree with that too, and I think that's
which I would say with a guy like Jaden Daniels or Drake May or Caleb Williams, because they all offer rushing upside. Jaden Daniels the most, like electric rushing upside. Very likely that they could have a rookie year inside the top 12 quarterbacks and be a better warp option.
For sure. I think the other thing you have to keep in mind too, Dr. Ryan Cecil, on that, if you don't trade out of that pick, is kind of the league, how the league values and trades the assets. Like, is a quarterback option like those guys, like what can they really go for in the crossover, the skill player department, right? And then vice versa. What is can a JSN when he was in the offseason, when you had a JSN all offseason, like what could that have bought you? And I think that's in the 10-team league where you have that discussion. And if it's like, hey, I'm going to take Neighbors, to Mike's point, I'm probably looking to off him before August comes around in that peak window of like hype around him, right? Where he's a top 10 pick going somewhere. Same thing with any of the other receivers that might be in that mix. All right. I think that's a good coverage of it. We'll see what we got here. We got a whoa, Dynasty Alex here early. Eggplants everywhere. Appreciate the super chat though, Dr. Ryan Cecil. All right. I hope that helps. If you have other questions, feel free to ask them. We'll get to it. 12-team PPR Superflex lineup. Start 12. A full point tight end premium, Mike. 3 receivers. We got Tua, Howell, Mack. Running back Swift, Mostert, Connor, Gibson, ARSB, Olave, Higgins, Pittman, Moore, Sutton, Reed. Jacoby Myers. Tight ends are Goddard and Otten. 2 of 3. All right, Mike. So here, let's do a little double tap. We got you muted again. Damn it, Michael.
Damn it. All right, we'll get it. We're like red zone. We're double boxing here.
I was going to say, this is we're going to use, might as well get all the shitheads out of here, man. Let's get these.
Octobox.
Could I use any upgrades at quarterback or running back? I've been practicing patience, what Mike's been saying, to hold these first all along, to be able to hammer a trade in the playoffs if needed. Okay. So I think the reality of the question is yes. You could use an upgrade at quarterback. Mm-hmm. Running back, I think Mostert I feel really good about unless he gets hurt. But the other 3 are a little hit or miss. I like Swift just fine, but if you could upgrade, I'd be about that. Yeah, obviously, they're going to be cost dependent. So here's the third question, right? What I've come to find out is even with these teams of mine that are the 4th, 5th, and 6th seeds, the first are not that coveted as I've hoped. If you could expound upon what strategy you would imply here. All right. It's a good question here, Michael. It's a good question.
Ooh. This is kind of where I like to go, and I'll take a really good asset that people like, right? You're like, I don't want to trade Olave, right? But I take Olave in my first, and I go get 2 assets. People see the Olave part and they get excited. They may not value the first enough, but it's enough of a kicker where they go, oh, shit. Not saying that I go try to get like one single asset, but maybe I do a 2 for 2, and it's kind of this backdoor sneak deal. Right, like I'm enticing you with the Olave part. I'm throwing the first in so you don't feel bad about it, but really I'm probably fucking you on both fronts. You know what I mean? like maybe the Olave to the piece I get that's across from him is a downgrade, but whatever I'm getting for that first is a bigger upgrade.
Yeah, I mean you hit it for me where if the first is not just buying you outright players, the piece here that you can afford to get rid of based on your receiver room and add a first to it, or even if you don't, like just trading Olave straight up, Olave is the piece I think that will garner you the table talk that you want to have if you need to upgrade other things, right, in the playoffs. That he's the piece. Because Amon-Ra St. Brown is like crazy valuable for me on a contender. I would probably rather keep him. And typically he doesn't get you the CeeDee Lamb type price anyway. Like if he was to get me the CeeDee Lamb type price, Mike, it'd probably be a discussion I'd have, a CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown type. But Amon-Ra never seems to actually like get that netted back in a return when I trade away. So I always end up keeping Amon-Ra.
Amon-Ra's a dude that you want because he's a high warp difference maker. Like you said about his market isn't as good as what CeeDee Lamb or A.J. Brown is, even though he gives you very similar production.
Yep.
Olave kind of inflated. T. Higgins right now down because of the whole Jake Browning thing. And it's been a bad year for him. Michael Pittman playing much better than what his dynasty value is, so that's not somebody I'm looking to get rid of because that's a dude you actually want on your team. DJ Moore is one of those explosive, like 30 burgers waiting to happen on any given week with Justin Fields. So, and he's not valued appropriately in dynasty either. That's something I want to keep. Sutton's a nice real buy. Jaden Reed's gaining some steam and some hype, but it's not really there yet. Jacoby Myers is just whatever. So your most enticing piece, in my opinion, if I was going to do it, would
Olave,
be Chris
right?
Olave.
And you think about it now, right? So we're out of the buys. And it's important that he mentioned here, Mike, in my opinion anyway, the 3 wide receivers. Because I'm looking at this and I say, okay, this is where, like, you carry insurance, right? But now it's like, okay, if you're about to die, if you're on your deathbed, right, you're not going to pay this massive premium for a payout that's not going to make any sense, right? Like, you're kind of just going to cut it. Like, we know we're going to die, or if it's something you paid into all your whole life, fine. But now I'm cutting that. I'm cutting any insurance I have. I'm going to try to win because you have 5 receivers here. So Amon-Ra St. Brown, you're going to start. You can start 5 in this league with a 10. You can start 10, it sounds like, right? 2 flexes, 3 receivers in the spots. So you put the flexes in the receivers. Amon-Ra, Olave, Higgins, Pittman, Moore are the guys that I'm going to start right now. But the reality is Sutton versus Olave week to week, not really much different, man. I'm perfectly fine in this format putting Sutton in for Olave and moving off of the Olave. So I think that's another reason why I wanted to highlight. I think that's your trade chip that actually right now, outside of injuries, which you can't control, like that's the spot you want to go to. And Reed's been playing solid enough, Mike, that if something did happen to one of these guys, I still got a puncher's chance putting him in right now. He's had 3 weeks in the top 12 the last 5 or 6, I think. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'll be honest with you, I'm going to see if I have a first in Olave, like, can I actually get a quarterback difference maker? Like, does that give me that chance? If I can do that, I think I'm in. Otherwise, I think at this point, you probably can find a running back without adding Olave even in the mix. But I think that's probably the reality. Olave plus a pick plus stuff that you're not going to be using, that's what I'd be doing. If Goddard gets me anything in this tight end premium, let me roll out now weekly. I think that's another thing you can kind of consider.
Yeah, if somebody really wants a Dallas Goddard for whatever reason, by all means.
I mean, me and you, we know where we're at with tight ends, Mike, but in a tight end premium of double, you might find in the market people care about Goddard because he's playing again. I'm not saying it's going to guarantee that, but if that's the case, I would happily bring that to the table.
Yeah, I can get behind that one too. Like, you float him out there and see what happens. See if somebody's all.
For example, if you add him to a package, right? Like, if Goddard's a piece that I can add to a package to get me over the hump, to get something I really need, I would do it in a heartbeat.
I get behind that.
All right, gentlemen. There you go. There we go.
That was a lot of eggplants.
That was, you know what, Dynasty Alex? I appreciate the questions. I appreciate the eggplants. And outside of the leagues you're playing against me, I hope you win.
Other than that, I hope you lose horribly if you're playing against
if you're playing against me, I kind of hope they all get Keenan Allen. I hate to tell you.
Ooh,
but
damn.
Home stretch. Win or go home. Excited for this stream. Smash the like button. Y'all appreciate that.
Thank you, Billy.
Mike, you know what's crazy about one of the things I love and is crazy about fantasy football, though? It's funny he put this up here. Made me remind myself to say this with the thumbnail, okay? So regardless of what you've done all year, okay, you could have the absolute goated team. Like, you could be undefeated right now. Now, the one thing undefeated gets you is at least one extra week of security, right? But starting the week you play, it's all week to week. Everything, all the marbles are week to week. One of the craziest things about the game, one of the most fun things about the game, though, right? You could have had this team that's kind of snuck along all year. Like you had just bad things happening. You were trying to just get through Dak being nothing like Dak for the first, 8-7 weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
You could have had injuries and you move around. But if your team's ready to go and you're the 6th seed, it's week to week, right? It's week to week. That's what makes lineup especially such a crazy madness masterpiece of a league. Best ball, you still can do it week to week, right? If you were to have a team that's really good and you look at it and you're like, man, this roster just needs to kind of clean up a little bit on the bench, need to make a couple trades, you can still do that in those leagues. So it all comes down to 1 week at a time for the rest of the year. Doesn't matter how great or how bad your season's been at this point if you're in the playoffs. So it's not quite as deep, but it's the same idea as March Madness, man. You could be one of the best teams in the country, have an unbelievable year, 3 versus 14, done. Go on. 1 week, right?
I'm gonna actually track it this year too. Out of those 28 best ball leagues that I do, right now that the playoffs are set, we're gonna track it. We'll see how often the 1 or 2 seed get bounced before the finals. Like how often that actually happens. I'm almost positive it doesn't happen very often, right?
I mean,
I would say in the lineup it's a 50-50. I think I've seen some numbers where somebody tracked it one year, like lineup leagues, Dynasty.
You mean
leagues.
50-50? What do you mean by 50-50? 50-50 that the 1 seed or 2 seed gets bounced in the first round?
Yeah, not get bounced in the first round.
Or semis, sorry.
Week 16, yeah.
Yeah,
they don't actually make the finals.
That sounds right. 50-50 sounds correct. I was just going to say, though, because here's the thing I've found is as much as we do talk about, and it is important, if you roster appropriately and you have a slight combination of hammers with crazy depth in most of the best ball leagues,
mm-hmm.
you're going to have a hard time getting beat. But
even with a Keenan Allen too.
Correct. Yeah, you can afford injuries. You can carry 3-4 IR guys that have dynasty value this part of the year if you're rostered appropriately, right?
Yep.
But I've seen it since we started really talking best ball in depth and strategy was 2022. But 2021 we were really getting into exploring it, right? And then we have this season now. This season we have no playoff data, but I'm just thinking in those last couple years, you I would say in that scenario had the best team in the bomb squad going into the 22 playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That I saw probably at that point in the season.
Yeah.
You lost in the semis, right? That's the thing. You can have a absolute goon squad that does lose just because there is in best ball, if the other team's not horribly roster constructed, they could still pop off too. So that's what kind of makes it not as much variance as lineup, but it kind of depends on the rest of your league, frankly, in my opinion.
I think my teams, especially if I just look at the way that our roster constructed this year
mm-hmm.
and built them out,
mm-hmm.
are even better than the one that you're talking about that did get bounced, right? You learn from those mistakes because
2023.
Yeah.
I think both of us have better teams than we did in any of our 22 years.
And a lot of it too comes down to the size of the benches, right?
Big
that
time.
league, if you remember, was 22 or 25.
20. It was 25 starters, yeah, or 25 roster spots. Sorry,
you had almost no margin for error whatsoever, right? Almost.
But that was what was so key about that, though, is the first year that you won, right? When you beat me in the semis,
mm-hmm.
it was you had I think 4 or 5 guys that got hurt. You can probably hold that in a 32 roster, a 35 roster. You're like, nah, man, I'm flipping these guys right now. And a couple of those trades, people were looking at you sideways, like, what the hell is he doing? You were just getting bodies in there, and that helped you win. So knowing your bench is big time important for that. But I still think it'll be interesting to track as we have more leagues and more years of data because I think there is still variance. But if you build right and you're on your top heavy and you have depth, it's going to be really hard to be losing most of those times.
Well, starting this Tuesday, I'll be keeping track of the data. So I'm interested. What's your prediction? How many of the 1 or 2 seeds move on to the finals? Yeah, what percentage would you say?
So you're talking, just mathematically thinking about this, you're talking about 56 1 and 2 seeds, right?
Yep.
How many of them are in the final game?
Yep. Percentage.
I would say I mean, this is gonna sound like a cop out. That's not because you just said that. I was gonna guess half. So give me like 28. I'll go with 30. Give me 30 of the 1 and 2 seeds will advance to the finals.
Okay, you 50%. Yeah, I'm
A little higher. I'm gonna go 30 of 56.
I'm gonna go with 70%.
Ooh.
I think it's greater than 2/3 of the 1 and 2 seeds in best ball move on to the finals.
We will find out. Yeah, absolutely. Be interesting to track. I think
where the 50% they came from, I think that was the number for lineup leagues, right? With the variance. Like it really just comes down to a fucking dice roll at the end of the day. So
we'll find out. We will find out.
I mean, there's a pretty good sample size. 28. I mean, people are roster constructed because they're listening to the show. A lot of these are patron leagues. Some of them aren't. Right? There's probably like 10, 12 that you're not a part of that'll be in this data set. But
I think the interesting part about that too will be, like I say this, because I don't know what percentage of those 28 leagues do you think is startups that happened this offseason?
Probably about 40%. Most of them are existing leagues.
That's what I was going to guess, though. Close. It's almost half. That's still quite a bit. We had a bunch of startups. The reason I say that is I think, especially in the year one, this isn't true in every single one of our leagues, but a lot of times in the year one, you'll have
everybody's closer together.
Exactly right. Exactly right. So I think that part is definitely a big thing.
I'll mark them as such too, and see if there's a big difference between year one startup and year something that's been around for
2021,
years.
2020. Yeah.
You've had multiple years to build a number 1, number 2 contender.
I think that's something to monitor for that too. I like the idea there. If you can mark them that way, that'd be cool. I still think that the 1 and 2 seeds, I would say, have better chances, but it's a finicky game, man, week to week. And you got to remember too, Mike. So for example, the reason I say that, I'm in a home dynasty league, Mike. You saw that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous, Mike. It's playing this week. Most points for, but guess what happens in best ball too sometimes, Mike. That squad is like 200 some points ahead of anyone with points for. But week to week, random shit, like either I had a bunch of buys or someone popped off, right? I lost 3 games, and now I'm the 3 seed. So, like, I would say I would put odds on my team still winning, even having to play an extra game. Yeah. Right? Like, if the 3 and the 4 seeds are really good, I think that matters too.
One of the interesting ones, I mean, there's a couple leagues like this you see that we're in, Adam, where, I made like mid-season moves on some of my contenders that have made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, and I've built super strong teams that, are on 7, 8, 9 game winning streaks and just decimating the rest of the league.
Yeah.
But they end up at the 3 seed because I started from a disadvantage, the first 4 weeks when I was trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do and just couldn't catch the top 2 guys. So
yeah.
Hopefully for the data set, right, the 70% we're all going to few of these because I'm going to knock off a few 1 or 2 seeds here next week.
Yeah, man. And I mean, you got to remember too, like, I'll say this. I don't want to belabor the point. I think it'll be interesting. I just remember the last two playoffs, especially, Mike, when we've really been like playing in a handful of best ball leagues when they started on Sleeper. Like I can think back to 5, 7 games in particular, where like when you look at it, you're like, damn, man. What was the dude from Buffalo 2 years ago that won a handful of games for people? Shoot, receiver. Trent Irwin literally swung matchups. Yeah. Right? Like those type of things. What was in 2021? You had the pickup of the year was Tyler Huntley, right? Like you add. Yep. So the thing is, you could have the disparity that just changes the outcome as a waiver wire pickup, like in best ball, right? So that's where I think it'll end up closer to 50-50 because of just crazy shit like that. Like for example, I don't know how he's gonna do. We don't know, but. What was the biggest pickup today in Superflex leagues, or the one league we had 3 quarterbacks, right? Easton Stick.
Yeah.
This dude may do fuck all, right? He may be terrible. But Mike, in like a 3 quarterback league, if you added him as your 3rd quarterback, you didn't have one, or you had a kind of a gross one, like that's sometimes the difference is in winning and losing. Obviously, I would still say the better team has a chance, the best chance to win, but
right.
Who got that waiver pickup could be absolutely like rewarded for that.
But that's also something, too, that we changed with our strategy, right? That we've become more accustomed to. And teams are smarter about it. Most teams, not blowing all your fab budget here before the playoffs.
Yep.
Right. Now, some of these people have been blowing it, and I kindly just I love the fact that I can just go out there and cock block somebody with $1 for the rest of the season.
Cucking them's awesome.
Zero. Like you can literally, even if you got like roster constraints, right? Bid $1 on Easton Stick. Waivers run on Wednesday. Drop Easton Stick on Wednesday. Bid another $1 on Thursday. Drop his ass again. You know what I mean? You can just perennially do this to somebody over and over and over again who needs a quarterback because they don't have any fab. It's amazing. I love doing it. It's awesome.
Absolutely. You if you have the hammer dollar-wise, you can play bully ball at the waiver wire, let's say,
right.
Daily, if not weekly.
Just whenever you feel like it.
All right. Let's see what we got here. Made a series of trades that resulted in Garrett Wilson, Jordan Addison, and Pat Freiermuth for DK Metcalf, Jacoby Myers, Isaiah Likely, Deontay Foreman, and Bailey Zappi. Bad trades or win now savvy?
Better be best ball.
This is definitely best ball. I can almost guarantee. Let's see. Maybe not. Let me not say that. 30-16, 3 copy, heavy bonuses for everything that heavily weighs having big weeks in plays. He doesn't say. Oh, hold on. Is this best ball or lineup, Koopa?
God, I hope it's best ball.
All right, so let's see. Jordan Addison, Pat Freiermuth, and Garrett Wilson. Mike, would you trade Jordan Addison for DK Metcalf straight up right now?
Yes, no question about it.
Yeah, but the problem is then you got Jacoby Myers, Isaiah Likely, Foreman, and Bailey Zappi for Garrett Wilson and Pat Freiermuth. That would be woof in lineup, buddy. Big woof. Yeah. Best ball, I can definitely get behind this. Feels a little steep, but when you get 5 assets for 3, Pat Freiermuth, I can totally get behind this in best ball.
One of them being a quarterback, even if
it is best ball.
Disgusting one. Yeah. If it's best ball, it's fine. It's disgusting for a lot of people, and they'll hate you forever, and they'll slobber over their keyboard about how dynasty value and yada yada yada. But
can we at least? For me, the reason I say that why it's win now savvy is. Like, I really do like Garrett Wilson and Jordan Addison, but what do we know about receivers? Unless you're like the Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lambs, like hammer points per game, you're pretty replaceable. A lot of these lines get pretty flat, right? And I can beat you with bodies. So you're losing here highly valued receivers, which are not giving you that in warp, right? Dynasty value receivers that aren't giving you warp advantages, and a tight end. So I'm comfortable getting off of tight ends as we've hammered home by now many a times.
Yeah, the tight end swap, like I could really care less, right? If I put that down as net and me, send away Pat Freiermuth for Likely and Foreman. Okay, I'll take the 2 for 1, right? And just bank on the fact that maybe Likely is just as good as Pat Freiermuth as far as warp goes, or at least hold and serve, and I get the extra piece for the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think your variance for right now, Mike. Here's the thing. I'm not a Likely guy, really, as far as his cost, I think, right? But right now, weekly, like, do you have a strong opinion on who's going to score more between Pat Freiermuth and Isaiah Likely every week?
No.
Not really?
No.
No. So I'll just take the coin flip. That's what I view it as. It's a coin flip for me.
Interesting thing, too, about the Jets with the Garrett Wilson, like, sending him away. Finally just did something, right?
He did. By the way, his warp is not the most stable. However, with that being said, Mike, just look at this man's target share is ridiculous.
It's kind of like Jamar Chase's target share right now.
It's like literally double digits weekly. Like, and you just think to yourself, man, how bad does quarterback play have to bad? Yeah. You're like, how bad does quarterback play have to really be for this guy not to be a top warp guy? Well, Jets bad, buddy. The Jets.
Now that we got the MILF Hunter back in, right? You see what the MILF Hunter can do for you.
What a game he put together, man. Well, how crazy was that?
Right.
Nobody saw that coming.
You knew he was pissed off, right?
I knew he was pissed off. I wouldn't have said that I wouldn't have seen him playing better than he's been. He's played dog shit earlier in the year. But he put together like a game. That was like a game. Maybe his best game he's had in his career, probably. So
now, if I was him, I would like pull my hamstring and just be like, "I'm good, man. You guys can maybe call up Tim Boyle, bitch."
See if Tim Boyle still wants to come play under center. I'm sure you won't remember, but last year I should have gotten the 101, but my league has a dumb lottery. I lost and got the 103. This year I took no risk and locked up 101 to 103. Look at that.
Just get them all.
4-dimensional chess.
Just get every single one of them. I love that too. I made a trade earlier in the year in a lineup league, Adam, where I was rebuilding, right? And I don't want to run any risks of not having a top pick. So what I do, I go out and I secure, lock up the 102.
Secure.
You just trade with the other guy, compete with you. They're like, fuck you too, buddy.
Hey, secure the bag. That is secure the bag. I'll tell you the crazy part about this though is that I don't know. In a lot of the leagues I'm in now, Mike, now I can still get this done in some of them. But a lot of the leagues I'm in, when you're talking about acquiring the 101 to 103, like it's – well, first of all, I'm in leagues with you. So if you're one of these teams, you ain't coming off that pick no matter what I send you.
Right.
Right? Like it's impressive just to be able to lock up these 3 picks. I'm not saying it's the correct play process-wise, but to have league mates that are willing to do it is tough.
Say this, but this was the thing. Like, it hurt to do it, right? I'm rebuilding. I had Anthony Richardson sitting on IR. But he still held incredible value, right? I wanted to make sure I didn't fuck up the 101, and I wanted to make sure that, I secured 101, 102. I just go to the guy who's got the 102 or 101 either way, and I'm like, how would you like Anthony Richardson? I got his first and second, too, so it's not
I was going to say, I know you didn't just do it straight up.
Nah.
I know you. I know you.
You got to throw that second in, too, boss.
So now it's the 101 to 103 and the 201 to 203, or is there no lottery?
No lottery.
Okay, so it's just the 201 or the 102 and the 202, right?
I got pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The whole top 5 is all mine, first and second round.
Yeah,
Don't have to worry
that's listen, that's another part of leveraging that doesn't get discussed enough. Obviously, if you can determine the picks, I mean, even better. But
yeah,
Mike, what you just talked about percentages and who's going to make the title game, right? When we get down to the Final Four, I said roughly 50. I said a little over 50, and you said 70%.
Yep.
If you get, let me ask you let me give you a math problem. We'll see how good the Iowa school systems are with math. All right.
All right.
If I give you in a 12-team league, if you go acquire 6 firsts, without knowing where those teams are, what are your odds of getting non-playoff? What are your odds of getting some non-playoff firsts?
50%.
Man, I was doing it right.
Good?
I was doing it right, ladies and gentlemen. That's it. The more you acquire, the more shots you have when you buy a generic or a late first. The more shots you have to go towards the early picks, right, to the non-playoff picks. So
shit, you know how many of Cody's Rip's first that I got? When he thought he was competing, had him push him in the off season. Now it's sitting at the 103, 104. Good luck hitting that one back, Chief.
You can have the pick that you have next year of yours. You can still have that one be early. This one, I'm gonna keep that. All right.
Yeah, I'm gonna take this one.
Good for you, Trip Crown. All right. Trying to live that A-warp tight end life, but a 10-team, 1 quarterback, start 2 tight end. I don't have I've never even gotten questions, I don't think, on 10-team with 2 tight ends. A new one. Yeah, rebuild, but have 6 first, including 1 to 4. Permission to take Bowers with one of those 4 picks. In 10 leagues, this is the only share I plan on getting.
You got to trade him.
So, I don't. The other thing is, I was gonna run warp, and I'm like, I don't have a league set up this way. Because I don't. The only way, I think Mike just hit the nail on the head. Frankly, at the 104, okay, and that's the absolute earliest. I don't care what I'm not doing it in ahead of the top 3. I don't think. At 104 though, if I do that, I'm 100% with what Mike said. I'm not even, as much as the warp would be a consideration for me, I'm not drafting him with the intention of keeping him. This is look at Dalton Kincaid, look at Sam Laporta. This guy is one of that. Here, what can I get now? Can I go get a hammer receiver? Can I get a top 10, 15 receiver? Can I get, in 10-team, 1 quarterback? Oh, you know what, dude? 1 quarterback, shit. I mean, but that's where, you might not even have him at 4. Right, he might not even make it to 4 in this format.
You would hope so. He does have 6 firsts, including 1 through 4, though. So,
I mean, I think I would probably tell you that if I'm doing it, I'm not looking to keep that value in tight end on my dynasty team. I'm looking to flip it. So if you think your market is going to be, possessed and crazed for Brock Bowers, I'd draft him.
Yeah, just hard pass for me.
Now
I'll take him, but
you're just saying,
trade him.
But you're saying, you're not going to forego him if you know the whole league wants him, right? You're not going to just do that because
if I know the whole league wants him, no, I will take him and then shop him around.
But if you're a little concerned on if he actually moves, you're just going to let him fuck him, right?
No thanks.
Fuck off.
Somebody else's problem.
Yep, I can get behind that. As a dynasty player, what's a piece of info that this season has taught you? Oh man, this is a question that doesn't have just one answer, but I'll give you one. Mike, what is your thoughts?
That this season has taught me?
In particular, this year, yep.
Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out the change that Warp has made to how I value individual players in my league.
Here, water, Mike?
No, absolutely not. It's Fedka, my friend. Stay thirsty.
All right. So what Warp has taught you?
And just how to value players, especially for my contending teams. Even leagues where I have no idea what the value is, right? Nobody has idea what the fucking value of a defensive player is in shit IDP 101, right? Adam?
Mm-hmm.
Like you see Kyle Hamilton. He had an 80-point week, right? Like damn near won a week by himself. 80-point week. Nobody's got an idea what the fuck his value is. Be cool, though, if there was a tool I could go see relative to the rest of the league how valuable Kyle Hamilton is. So be it. He's hurt. Not playing. I need him for the playoff stretch. I need to fill some bodies. I go to it and I see Kyle Hamilton's 122nd player in Warp. Now I have an idea of how valuable Kyle Hamilton is. So when Zach, I don't see him here tonight, Zach comes to me with some bullshit offer of 3 fucking players in the 500s in Warp, I can tell him to fuck off. I don't want your 3 500 Warp players for my one top 150 dude in a league that's starting 25 people. That's how it goes.
How's that
that's
for math,
what this
Zach?
season is tough. You like
How's
that
that
math?
for math?
That's pretty good Iowa math right there.
All right, Mike. I'm going to give you mine, and it's also a Warp thing. However, it's not just the simple. Well, I shouldn't say simple. It's not correlated 100% to the answer you gave. Okay, so the thumbnail. Let's talk about the thumbnail for a second. I don't know if you peeped it out, but did you?
Well, David Njoku on there.
Yep, you got. What was it? Njoku, Dak, Rashad White. Can you tell me what those 3 all signify? Like the reason those were the 3 specific guys that made the thumbnail.
Oh, they were all 3 guys we didn't give a fuck about in the offseason, really.
Okay, now that's true, and I'll tell you what they are to hammer the point home.
They're all 3 difference makers right now.
Not just that, Mike. Weeks 9 to 14, if you run 90 to 95% of leagues, Mike, weeks 9 to 14, the top option at the position. Christian McCaffrey smashing, Mike. Christian McCaffrey smashing. You know who's beating him in 5 weeks? Rashad White. We talked all this shit about Patrick Mahomes. And you know who's beating everybody in Warp the last 5 weeks? Dak Prescott.
Damn.
David Njoku, Mike. Now, the reason I wanted to highlight this, and this super chat gave me a good floor to talk about it, actually. I wasn't going to get to this, actually, if we were just keeping answering questions. I wanted to, and I was going to forget.
I like it.
Can I tell you why it's so important, though, when you think about this? I did a thumbnail right after the season when the Warp was becoming a bigger thing that we were thinking about how, like, it was Evan Ingram and Cam Akers and somebody else in the playoffs that were the top option.
Playoffs? I just love doing that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I do too. Please, it fit. Let me clear my throat. Let me get this drink poured up again. But you know what we did a lot of, and we do a lot of, still I think, is like, okay, I look at Warp for the league and I say to myself, all right, Patrick Mahomes in a league that really is hyper value of quarterback. I'm like, well, Patrick Mahomes, man, I got to go get him. Like, I can go up tier. Do you know what this tells me? This tells me, Mike, especially in best ball, once I figure out the lines, like, why am I deciding who is the top option? Like, why am I saying this person is not a difference maker and this person is? I need to invest in the position. Because you tell me right now, there's not a fucking person that's not a liar out there that says they could have predicted David Njoku as the tight end 1 in that 5-week sample size in the difference-making time.
Right.
Dak Prescott's the quarterback 1. What does it tell me? We have to stop saying, okay, Patrick Mahomes. Like, if Patrick Mahomes we say is worth 4 first, not that he shouldn't be. I'm not saying you just move off of Patrick Mahomes. What I'm saying is, why are we discounting Dak? Why is Dak worth 1 and a second? What? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
Rashad White, he's a running back that for this season has no one in his way as far as workload. Why are we saying he's the bottom end RB2, high end RB3?
At what point do you start to push those in, though? Because we have a finite of time, finite amount of time to make decisions, even in best ball leagues, Adam, where before long, like, you're sitting at 0-4, 0-5, right? Your playoff flashing light is slowly dissipating.
It's time right now.
Pissing away. Right.
Well, I can tell, because I'll tell you why I think it's a good question and good topic here. Okay, Mike. What does right now, today, what does David Njoku cost you?
Maybe a first.
Okay, so I would actually agree. Let's say you have to pay up. You pay the extra tax because you see the role and you see David Njoku matters. All right, you haven't really sent your picks in early because or pushed too many of your chips in too early, and you said, I got Travis Kelce, Mike.
Yeah,
I got news for you. Travis Kelce, it wouldn't shock me if he had a 3-week, banana fest in the playoffs. But you know what he's going to cost you if you try to go buy Travis Kelce right now? A lot more. And guess what? If you paid up, there's no guarantee he's going to beat David Njoku in the playoffs. But right now, I could say I can go get David Njoku. Like, even Rashad White, unless he's on some of these teams that is just not going to trade running backs, they're just so contender heavy, I can say, all right, I can go buy Rashad White reasonably right now, right? You can find other guys still. You can find some team out there that has a version, a Kyron Williams, some form of a running back that doesn't cost an arm and a leg at the time. You have this information going in the playoffs, right? Like, you would have had this information before your deadline was finished. So,
yeah,
not the 14th week. You would have had 9 to 13.
So would you say, like, you'd have placeholders in place? Like, essentially, you got some liquid type assets that you could move where it's like, I got Jared Goff as my QB1, but I have the liquidity to go get a Dak Prescott when I identify that Dak Prescott's actually good, because you couldn't do that. You couldn't do that before the season, right? You couldn't even do it in the season. Week 1 through 5, he's a QB 28 in warp. Like, he was dog shit.
That's a great.
God awful.
You just summarized exactly the correct thing. Like, it's having the ability and the flexibility to get him at the correct time, because, like Koopa highlighted for us when we saw all of a sudden these Seattle receivers having their chance, right? Like, before the season started, we didn't know that the schedule was going to give Seattle a great playoff run. We didn't even know what the defenses look like versus receivers, right? So it's like you don't have the information until it's time. So honestly, again, this is a highlight of timing. So for me, dynasty player, what it's taught me is, like, I talk till I'm blue in the face, Mike and I, about attrition. We see it. A lot of this stuff we've known, but this was a bigger, greater highlight to me, Mike. I look at the last 5 weeks and how people are playing and trending, and you'd be shocked to think who the 3 options are. Now, CeeDee Lamb is the wide receiver 1. I was going to put him up, but actually, like, trying to fit all those assets into one thumbnail is already tough enough. And he's also not a shock.
You know what else all 3 of those have in common?
Okay,
Weeks 1 through 5, Adam. I told you Dak was QB 28. David Njoku was tight end 35.
They all look like shitters.
Rashad White was RB 24. They all look like trash options.
That's it. And Mike, it's funny. I was going to do that, like a whole episode on that, because I was going to actually. We can talk about it at least right now a little. One of the things we also tend to do is
episodes get done.
No, we will. But I was just going to say, like, Mike, I remember vividly the 40 where we went through the warp and, like, how it looks, and we actually said, based on the information of, what was it, 7 or 8 weeks, like, hey, we got a sample size enough. Dak and CD, man, these might be guys you want to move.
Yeah,
right? Like,
Might want to be guys you go acquire, huh? Fucked
So
up that one.
It's the first 8. Again, this is where Mike. I talk about one and done. The first 8 weeks are only relevant because of the records that they give you. None of that stuff matters anymore. Like what players were doing there.
Shout out to Brock Purdy. You didn't put him on the thumbnail, thank God.
Well, Mike, believe me,
I
would have if he was. I would have had no problem with it. Luckily for you, Dak Prescott got his act together. All right.
He did. He's good. Thank you, Dak.
I know you love, though, seeing the Cowboys quarterback and your favorite player, Brock Purdy, ahead of Jalen Hurts the last 5 weeks. That's wild to think.
I did see something, though.
Go ahead.
You know, like Brock Purdy's on a heater, right?
Yeah.
He's been on a heater.
Has been.
So this is big shout out to Drew, DFB Encounter, though. He put out that tweet about Brock Purdy, and you know, people are all excited about relative to the rest of the quarterback position this year, Adam. Brock Purdy's playing really, really well as far as fantasy production goes. But I think we're playing in the vacuum of this year where we're like, God, yeah, look at this. Like, you know, we'll throw out numbers like QB1, QB2, you know, this kind of stuff to justify QB6, this kind of thing. Relative, though, like Brock Purdy's having a great year, MVP type year, and like he's been decent enough for fantasy year, especially as of late. But if you were to put him in a category of where does he rank like last 5 years, he's like the 46th overall quarterback or some shit for fantasy point scoring. And you're like, fuck, man, this year has been brutal for quarterback scoring. And it felt like at the early part of the year, you and I were talking about this every goddamn recap show we did, where it was like, all right, where's those 30 burgers? Where's those 40 burgers? Where's that quarterback who puts up 50 or 60 on the week? And we go, fuck, how you going to overcome this? We ain't really seen it. We're excited when a dude gets even close to 30, and that's kind of like our peak this year. It kind of sucks, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, so I don't know if you remember specifically on the trade show, we went over a trade I made, the Patrick Mahomes, the Godfather offer. Remember that?
Yeah.
That episode?
Yep.
So I just want to highlight to you in Warp over the last 5 weeks. I made the trade, I think, actually 5 weeks ago on the nose, interestingly enough. Wait till you hear this one. So let me take the wide receivers. I'm trying to find where my guy is on this chart. It's pretty bad. Where is Mahomes on this? Holy shit, man. Okay, quarterback 13 the last 5 weeks. So if you remember the trade, Mike, I traded away Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and 2 firsts that were mid. So, Mike, I got the quarterback 13 the last 5 weeks and sent away the quarterback 4 and the tight end 1 in this specific format.
Yikes.
As well as the two mid first. So just think about that for a second, right? Like, not that Patrick Mahomes isn't someone you should be trying to acquire ever. Like, I'm not saying that you don't go pay a Godfather offer for certain players, but like that was an against process move. That was hey, this is a guy that just is against process. He's so good.
Yeah. If
I just stuck with the process, right? Value over names, and you know, as great as Mahomes is, let me just get Purdy, this shitter, in here. Let me get Kittle good enough at tight end. I now have a better quarterback option, a top end tight end, and now I can push those 2 firsts in before the playoffs to go get something, even if it's not the greatest of name liquidity, right? Like,
that's fair.
The name equity would have been shitted, but I could have gotten something with those 2 firsts. Instead, I've got 1 quarterback. So sometimes, man, when we talk about process, it's seeing it all the way through, because if you look at it in an 8-week sample size versus the whole season, a lot changes. And if you know what you know going into the fantasy playoffs, which is what now, Mike? Quarterback scoring is down overall. We didn't expect that to happen. You know what else we didn't expect to happen? This much attrition. Look how many quarterbacks are dead. Look at options you have at quarterback. Good teams are going to roll out Easton Stick or some shit, man. Nick Mullins. Like, look what we have at Tommy DeVito is a super flex starting for teams in the playoffs. Like, weekly he is. Like, you don't have that information in the beginning part of the year, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
I did look it up. If you take the average of top 25 quarterbacks over the last 5 seasons, it comes out to 23.8 fantasy points per game. Brock Purdy scoring 4 points per game behind that at 19.
Now, can I tell you though? Wow, that's good information long term. Do you know what that information you can do for the fantasy football playoffs? Figure out how to put it in the toilet. Let it sit long enough so that you can flush it down the fucker, because it doesn't mean shit for this playoffs, right? He's probably going to still have a chance to be a top-end option in the playoffs for this year.
It's relative to the year you're playing, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward to your point, next year we could have the discussion.
Yeah.
What I think the reality will be too for me is going to be to really evaluate him. Let's take the weeks that Deebo Samuel was on the field and not on the field, and let's have a discussion on what his points per game was in that range, right? Because you can remove WARP because that's for this season,
Right?
And is that good enough to even say that he's worth anywhere near what his cost is going to be? Like, he's going to be a top 10. I hate to tell you this, he's going to be a top 10 like dynasty key trade cut option. I almost guarantee it soon. You know,
Good for them.
no, I'm just saying, like, at that point, if you have that type of cost on him, is he going to be worth that going into next year? That's crazy.
I'll keep driving the hate bus and keep driving all them truthers to.
I'm not worried about that.
Pay the price, boys.
There's a reason I say that. I'm ready for you to keep driving that bus. Let's get back to questions.
I
Sorry
got
for
you,
the
buddy.
brief intermission, but I felt like that was actually a good point to talk about. What do you got?
No, it's with the quarterback thing too. We were talking about that. You know, we said looking at warp graphs coming into the season, right? When we were doing it on the trade show, I'd always tell you, well, Adam, if you go look at 21 or you go look at 20, or if you go look at 19, like the quarterback line is so much higher. Maybe 22 was the aberration. Fuck, now we're seeing a trend, man. 23 is going to look just as bad as 22 as far as these quarterback warp lines. At the end
Well, you know what's crazy is 22 was like one of the all-time highs, right? Or in like a
Worst.
10 window. Yeah. Like this year is going to be, the quarterback line is going to be like, wow, what the fuck? Like, this is
Buried
crazy.
below the wide receiver line.
Mike, like I'm looking, Mike, just this is if you could pull it up on there if you wanted to see it. Dynasty Best Ball is one of these leagues where the wide receiver, it's a half PPR, it's a 0.2 points per carry, and it's 6 point per passing touchdown. You just think about that format. That's like, holy God, quarterback, right? Like, there's 6 point per passing touchdown, and if you're a rushing quarterback, you can still get the 0.2 points per carry. So it's like the position, Mike. The first 7 quarterbacks are ahead of the running back line, and that's it. And the running back line is not that far from it, right? Like, it just shows.
Have been trash. Yeah.
And it just shows how close the lines are and how it really kind of hits the point of, Mike, how bad quarterbacks have been this year relative to anything we've expected.
Yeah, that's fair.
For example, T-Rock. Mike, T-Rock, we talk about this Fade the Feeder League. He and I and Nick Ercolano are in, right? And I'm like, man, this team's so good. And the reason I said that is Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts were his 2 quarterbacks in a Superflex Start 10 league lineup. You know who missed the playoffs? A guy that had a ton of value in those 2 guys that are supposed to be hammers that weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, we talked about how great the quarterbacks are, but if they're not that great, now all of a sudden we're playing the old school game. Like, what's the rest of your team? Right?
Where's your depth? Where's your depth?
Mm-hmm.
Where's your depth?
So anyway, let's get back to questions. Mr. B, 12-team Superflex start. 12-team start 10, half PPR, 25-man roster. I'm the 2 seed with tons of injuries. Anthony Richardson, Dimes, Aaron Jones, Ramondre, Kirk, Musgrave, etc. Holding a lot of bad quarterbacks to survive. He's got Lamar, Browning, Flacco, DeVito, Trubisky. I have 2 late first. What do you do here? It's best ball. Ooh, shit.
The AR and those 2 first can buy you just about any quarterback.
If you don't have a deadline, man, I have a league. It's the OG shit league, especially where I have Anthony Richardson, and I've done this I've done it a handful of times. Like, all right, let me see what he can get me from these guys that aren't in. Now I know exactly who's not in. I gotta go back to the table again and be like, all right, fuckers, come on. Like, what can I get here with this, right? Can I tell you what the problem is, though, with A-Rich that I've found is now, right? We talked about the quarterback options. Like, the quarterbacks that are actually scoring high warp and are healthy, how many of them are really worth even sending A-Rich for? That's actually the hardest part of it. You got to find a team that's not a contender that has a name cachet quarterback or someone that's at least going to give you high-end warp at minimum, right? If I'm going to push Anthony Richardson in.
If I'm pushing Anthony Richardson and the 2 first in, yes, I'm with you. But if I'm the 2 seed, man, this is where I talk about doing shit that's uncomfortable for people. Where you talk, dynasty value, long term, blah blah blah. Fuck, I expose the shit out of it. Anthony Richardson for Jordan Love, straight up.
Oh, well, again, Mike, but now that's where I'm saying I got to at least have a name cachet quarterback or a warp option. Jordan Love is a warp option, so I'm with you on that part. My point is, Jordan Love, because of what he's been, he might not be on a team that's not in the playoffs. Now, Mr. B, let me tell you one thing that that I just uncovered there that is important. Having the 2 seed, if you don't find a deal you're comfortable with, remember there will be 2 teams that are in the trade discussion next week, after this week is finished, that you can go to and send A-Rich to as well. So keep that in the back of your mind. I'm not telling you not to make a deal. I'm not telling you to hold A-Rich, but I'm saying you have, until this week concludes to really put the hammer down on 2 more teams before you make a deal that you have to get done. And I'll say this in a best ball league. If I'm in this team, if I have a good team like this, I'm moving A-Rich at almost anything I have to do to get rid of him. Like, to your point, Jordan Love. Like, what do I got to do? Let's get this done.
Well, even to your point, Adam, like, I don't even give a shit if Jordan Love's on a contender, right? Like, some people are so set in their fucking ways with dynasty value that the contender thing even goes out, where they don't even realize they're the 1 seed, and they're the 1 seed because it's been on the back of Jordan Love being the QB2.
That's fair.
And they would be like, oh, fuck, this dude wants to give me Anthony Richardson. Well, shit, 2025, hey, Rich is going to fuck you, buddy. Good luck.
That's true.
Let me go fuck your team up here real quick, and you take this asset that's going to do nothing. Let me get the warp option at quarterback with a fucking easy schedule to finish out the year. And that's have fun with Anthony Richardson, and I'll have fun, getting that championship at the end of the year. So don't even rule out contenders sometimes with these.
No, that's a great point too. The 2 things. One, that I think you could talk about here, Mr. B, as well as what the question is. One, you have an extra week to decide what you want to do and let 2 more teams come to the table. To Mike's point, though, this is where, like, what happens on 100% of the trades you don't send is 100% of the trades don't get accepted or have no chance. Like, shoot your shot, man. Go ahead. If you see a contender that was either in on A-Rich or might be in on A-Rich the way they play, fuck it. Send that offer out. They decline it. They counter with something ridiculous. You hit decline too. You know how much time that took you? 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I don't know. Something like that. Send them out. Fuck it. You got a team that's ready to go. Do it. But I'd say this, Mr. B, come back next week if you have not found a deal when they're like, now it's time. It's nut cutting time. And we'll walk through the scenarios with you, I think. Definitely. I would say, Mike, but what are you doing here? He says, have 2 first. What do you do here? The quarterback is definitely the position I'd like to add another body to here. As much as you do at least have, though, Mike, 4 starters that it's not pretty, but it's fine. I'm fine with that, honestly. Like, if you don't actually get quarterbacks, too. Like, I know it's shitty, but you got 4 shitters that give me something. One of these guys probably is popping off for a quarterback 10 to 15, 18 week,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every week.
Your quarterback room isn't horrible, right? Like, you're still there. But you're still, like, if you're the 2 seed and you're rocking all these injuries, like, you need to be exploring what you can move them. 1 for 1, 1 for... Fucking, who cares really about Luke Musgrave? I don't miss me with the long-term shit. Fuck, Tucker Kraft look better than him. Like, if somebody's going to give me Logan Thomas for Luke Musgrave, see Luke Musgrave. Get the fuck off my team.
No. I'm so... I guess
Kirk for Tyler Lockett. Like, that's another one. Let me go buy
There's a reason I'm saying that, though, Mike, because I think you and me might be on very much the same page here. So I'm just looking at last week, for example, because you're playing a week-to-week game, okay? So Lamar was quarterback 2. Jake Browning was quarterback 4. Joe Flacco was quarterback 7.
Yeah.
Ritter was 8. Like, here's the thing. Because you have so many options, you have 5 quarterbacks. Think about roster construction for a minute. 25-man roster. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm trading AR for skill players. I think that's the fucking move here.
Yeah.
You don't want to have 6 quarterbacks on a 25-man roster.
Nah, not ideally.
You don't want to have 6. You don't. It's too many.
But if AR and 2 firsts and a fucking Musgrave and Ramondre gets me to Josh Allen.
Oh, well, okay. Sure. But then, Mike, you know what we have to have the discussion of? You gotta probably cut one of these quarterbacks. I don't want to have 6 quarterbacks on a 25-man roster. Right. I really don't. I frankly, 5 is already pushing it. 5 is like probably a little more than I want, but I'll stay there. So
right.
Now, to Mike's point, if you can push all that shit in and you get Josh Allen, who's a fucking hammer, a warp difference maker in this season, sure. But I think there's also a scenario where Anthony Richardson. Let's talk about some players real quick. Everyone watching can, I think, have it.
Here's also the thing, Adam.
Go ahead.
I don't know what platform this is on. If this is on Sleeper,
yeah,
I go over the 25-man roster limit. You guys can all lick my balls, and I do it on the back of a trade.
So you mean in the game you'll have 28 players playing?
Fucking right, I will. You know how many teams I got that got, they might be 30-man rosters, and I got 36 players on them? And every week I got to have that conversation. Do I have 6 dudes on this team I would cut to pick up the one free agent that's hot? And a lot of times I don't have one.
I think we have to have a discussion about that 6. Too, where it's like, Mike, I've cut down on my teams like that. Now, there's probably been a week or two where I had a couple extra guys. I'm going to have my rosters all intact. Like, I'm going to go down. Now, I think the reason we got to have that discussion is, like, what is really fair for your league and what is the bylaws say and what's – oh, man. See what I'm –
no bylaws and Sleeper allows it. It happens, baby.
Well, what I'm not doing – because I'll tell you what I'm not doing, Mike, is exposing myself to the opportunity in these leagues where it's like, hey, Adam didn't have a fucking legal roster in week 15, and he won a game because he had too many players. Nah, man, you're fucking you're done. Like, we expel you. You're out.
No,
I'm not. Now you're the commissioner, so again, there's a.
I ain't kicking myself out.
But Mike, I'm telling you, I'm not giving myself in these best ball teams that I'm already in a position to really win. Somebody a fucking excuse like, hey, you never fucking liked this dude anyway. Let's get him the fuck out of the playoffs. I'm not exposing myself to that. To your point, though, if you think like it can. I don't know. I don't like the idea of also, Mike, someone having an asterisk hanging over my head either. Like,
I don't give a fuck. The asterisk still spends the same.
Mike, if I played this game just for money, I'm not in these $50 fucking leagues. Like.
Well, the asterisk still spends the same.
But it's not. I'm saying it's not the money.
I don't think LeBron gives a fuck that his championship was in the bubble. It's still a title, baby.
I know you love LeBron, but you are high if you think he doesn't give a fuck. You know he hates that they're going to call that the bubble fake championship. He hates that.
Full of shit. They're just full of shit. Doesn't matter.
You think he's fine with them saying that?
100%. He earned it.
No, he's not.
He earned it.
Mike, if there's one thing LeBron cares about more than anything, it's the fucking public's perception.
Eric and I were talking about this, and I'm a Lakers fan, and
big time.
I'll ride or die. Like, LeBron was fine, and then he was the GOAT.
Real quick before you talk about whatever this is, how does one in Iowa become a Lakers fan without being a bandwagon sticks?
So in the 90s, right? I grew up in Iowa, so everybody here was dick riding the Chicago Bulls, right? Think about mid-90s and Chicago Bulls, and we're 3 hours.
You're talking Chicago. The Nick Van Exel era, right? Eddie Jones.
I wasn't a Lakers fan at that time. I was an Orlando Magic fan. I was an Orlando Magic fan because Shaq was fucking amazing, right? The Shaq knows his shoes. So when Shaq left Orlando, my fandom went with it to wherever Shaq went because he was awesome.
So it was the Shaq wagon sticks.
And I went to L.A., and it just stuck. It just stuck forever.
Okay.
So that's why. But Eric and I were talking about it, right? Quick story here before we're done on this tangent of bullshit.
Quick story.
Basketball.
We've had massive stories. We're over an hour, and I love this. Go ahead.
I'm a Lakers fan, right? And like people give you shit for it, whatever. I'm telling you though, Adam, if the NBA were to ever get their heads out of their ass and put the fucking Seattle Supersonics back in Seattle, like as an expand it to 32 teams, and I don't know what the other one would be. But I would be a day one Seattle Supersonics fan, like from the get-go, because that team was awesome in the 90s. Like, I just love the Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, the old jerseys. Fuck, even late 2000s before Kevin Durant got drafted, before they moved to Oklahoma City. Yeah, you remember Rashad Lewis? That fucking 7-footer small forward? That dude was money.
Yeah, and they just made the like maroon red alternate Seattle jerseys before they switched over. Yeah.
Yeah.
You loved some Rashad Lewis. I remember that. It's funny, I did too.
He just had that sweetest looking stroke. It was a little bit different than anybody else, but it was way overhead.
He had a very high shooting point. But the thing with him too was like he was part of in that movement of like transcending the game away from the big man, like extending them out, right, making everybody play more like guards. All right, so. What I was going to say was, Mike, there was another team that was an expansion team that's also gone is out that way. Vancouver did not make it either. So,
the Vancouver
not that they should, but the Vancouver Grizzlies had some fucking sweet unis too.
They did. They stunk at basketball. They were terrible.
Yeah, they did. They did.
At least the Raptors were like kind of entertaining within a few years. Grizzlies were shit.
Well, the Raptors got the lottery of trading Antoine Jameson for Vince Carter on draft day after they made the selection. Pretty awesome.
Pretty good choice. That's a
All
pretty
right.
good choice.
Oh, wait, here. Dr. B. Harris says, I had Rashad White thrown in a deal when I got Kyler when Watson went down. Man, did that pay off. Oh.
There you go.
Wait, are you trying to say that you got – hold on a second.
He's flexing.
Are you telling me that you got, for Watson, Kyler, and Rashad White?
Though Watson carried a lot of value early in the season.
I'll tell you, there's a specific Watson deal that I would love to have back, but can't.
And everybody hated Kyler.
All right, 12-team Superflex
Send me.
PPR, start 10. Need help with running back. 2, currently rocking Monty and McKinnon. Would you trade Ramondre and Ferguson for Swift and Otten?
Yes, no question about that.
Mm-hmm. Listen, I like Ferguson. I think he's a nice option at Warp, even. And I think he's someone that, as long as he's in Dallas, it's been a friendly tight end spot. Yeah, but y'all can fuck all that. I'll take the down tier at tight end in Warp, and you give me DeAndre Swift if I need running back help. This is a easy way to get there in my mind.
So Ferg is at just this random half-point tight end premium league I was looking at. He's at .099
for the year
in Warp. In Warp per game for the last.
Warp per game. Yep.
Yeah, the last few weeks. Let me see where Otten's.
So I'm looking at Mike in a
0.8. So he's .019 off of him.
Yeah, so I'm just looking right now in a half-point tight end premium league I'm in. It's the Dynasty Best Ball, which I just had up. I was discussing with you. So in this league, over 9 to 14, which again is one of the things that I will care about. Like, how are they trending? Tight end 12, .384, Cade Otton. Tight end 5, Jake Ferguson, .464. So like, it sounds like a lot as the tight end number, but the reality of what they're meaning to my team is not really that much. I'll take
the biggest
that
difference
Otton.
is?
What's
the
that?
The one running back in this deal that's a 0. And the
Well,
one running back who has the potential of doing something.
Well, now the one thing is, to your point, right? DeAndre Swift has been not very good over this time, but guess what? We know for a fact DeAndre Swift's been actually running back 28 over this time. But guess what? I can tell you what Ramondre is going to be for the playoffs. Running back off this fucking page and a 0 in your team. So I'll take it.
And Swift's schedule does ease up here. Right.
I was going to say, I think Swift is one of these guys, especially with the trade deadline off, Mike. If people are kind of cooling, right? This is
schedule's easy.
I'm interested in some DeAndre Swift. It's kind
of the opposite with like Dallas and in Philly, right? Dallas schedule now gets hard.
Peep this out, buddy.
Philly schedule gets easy.
Speaking of Philly schedule, my brother Mike, I got to be real. I don't think wearing a CD jersey is a bad thing. I think you'd like that, honestly. I should have said Michael Gallup. Now that would have hit different. I can tell you, Fizzle, though, I was here. He ordered the 88. It's on its way. And it's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome.
It is.
Unlike you, Fizz, right? Like, I don't like Dallas.
He said Fizzle starts it out with my brother. He's all like, listen, we're friends, all this. Mike's like, listen, fuck. Unlike you. Like, here, let me tell you what the difference between you and I is right away.
I'm just saying, unlike you, like, I can appreciate greatness at the fantasy players that Dallas has. I can get behind it. Even in IDP leagues, right? I really do enjoy the greatness of Micah Parsons. Jesus, I almost fucked that up.
That
vodka's hitting, buddy.
I was about to say, is it kicking like
We're
that?
Good.
I might need to get back on the vodka
Dallas team. The only one on that Dallas team I can't stand is DeMarcus Lawrence. I fucking hate that guy. I despise him.
I thought you hated the team in general, kind of like the Brady thing. I'm sure you've seen the Brady like highlights. What did they look like? You know, like just anyone wearing that jersey, I thought you hated. But
yeah, no,
did they disrespect me in any way? What did they look like?
But Gallup is kind of ass cheeks, so I'm glad it was a CD jersey.
Lucky for the
pay
Eagles,
$100+ for a fucking Michael Gallup jersey.
Well, I was just gonna.
Though I probably could have found that one on like one of them shady, aftermarket websites for like $5.
Well, what I was going to say is ordering at this point, like the Cowboys have enough bad money invested in Michael Gallup. Let's not send any money towards the jersey or anything of this man ever again. All right, let's
They're
just
gonna think it's a good signing if we do, right?
let's
Like,
not
look,
spend any money
somebody
on his
ordered-
gear. No,
Somebody ordered a jersey for him. It's kind of like the Josh
bro, go look at
Dobbs
that contract. It's way worse than you think. The Gallup
Well, it's
signing.
Well, it's like the Josh Dobbs thing, man. Went through all that work to get his jersey in the store just to find out he's trash.
I like Red Eye Jedi here with this one. This is a great non-question on
Ooh.
AMA. Mike will dig up any off-the-wall stat to justify his message, and especially to double down on Brock Purdy. And I'll tell you the truth, Red Eye Jedi, is you are not wrong about that. Mike will find a way to hate Purdy, regardless of if the stats
100%.
exist. But if he can find a stat, he's definitely going to do that.
And if I could find one that somebody else found for me and then wrote up a really nice point,
40
TF
chess.
Bean Counter did. He did all the work.
40 chess.
Just point
What
out
up?
the fact the dude's pretty fucking smart.
What up, Dylan? Made the playoffs. Tough opponent this week, though. Need the potential boom week. Got a bunch of start questions pre-warning. Believe me, we'll be there. We're here for AMA. Listen, we're not going to leave you high and dry. You know, Mike may have raped you and ripped you off during the trades that you made, but we're not going to leave you high and dry for start sit. We're not going to leave you high and dry on AMA in the playoffs ever. And come ask the questions all you want. So it's not a question here, but he has a series of questions here. All right, number one.
I'll rapid fire him off.
Likely at Jax or McBride versus Frisco?
McBride.
I'm not overthinking this either. McBride. Start 2 running back, wide receiver, 1 flex. Jay Cook versus Dallas. Mixon versus Minnesota. Pollard at Buffalo. Spears versus Houston. Diggs versus Dallas. Well, hold on. Let's wait a minute here. Start 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 1 flex. Oh, so all these in a big hodgepodge.
2
All right.
running backs. I'm going Cook and Mixon.
Yeah, me too. Cook and Pollard is a
receivers.
tougher one for me, but I'm going to lean Cook here. Pollard's actually
wide
been
receivers.
decent enough.
2 wide receivers easy. Diggs and Ayuk.
Yeah, I'm not.
I ain't overthinking that
Downs is not even in the conversation for me. Reed's been playing well, but he's been up and down. I think Ayuk and Diggs is my play as well.
The flex conversation comes down between Pollard and Jaden Reed for me.
That's where. So, Mike, let me ask you this then. But in that question, which way you going?
I'm probably just going to go Pollard. I like Reed, but
Full PPR. They play Tampa. I'm going to play Pollard too. Yeah, I'm going to play Pollard. Hold on,
Mixon, Pollard, start him, Diggs, Ayuk.
Would you rather have this week in full PPR if Stroud doesn't play? Levis, DeVito, Flacco, Wilson.
Oh, Joe Flacco. Firing him up. Joe Flacco. Easily. I don't even think twice about this one. That motherfucker just goes out there and slings it. And the Chicago's trash defense, even better.
Yeah, I think I'll be honest. I can't. You don't have an option here that makes me say I'm going to sit Joe Flacco, based on what I've seen so far with you. All right. Connor versus Frisco. Ford versus Chicago if he plays. Singletary versus Tennessee.
Ford if he plays. James Conner if he doesn't.
100% with you there. Confident with Raiders defense. I'm not the greatest with defenses. Versus the Chargers with no Herbert or Allen.
Fucking money, man. I started the Saints. It was the number 1 defense last year.
Yeah, you did. That's true. You did.
Nailed that question. All
Couldn't beat it.
Raiders versus
All right, our
Chargers
defensive strategist. What do you got?
or the Ravens.
No, he dropped the Ravens.
Oh, he dropped the Ravens.
I got Broncos for the next 2 weeks and Raiders at the moment for this week. So he's got the
Broncos or Raiders.
Yes.
Oh, I'm firing up the trashy Raiders defense against Easton Stick with a Keenan Allen-less Chargers team.
Yeah. So the question up front, which really isn't a question, it's kind of like talking about the question at the end. I understand why it was confusing. I'm actually with you. I'm 100% agreement.
Max Crosby's going to eat Easton Stick's fucking lunch.
I'll be here next week to cut some nuts. Mr. B, we will happily help you cut the nuts. That's what
Cut
we
the
do,
nuts.
man. Time to cut them. I'll try and get with you on all these, Dylan Flick. Okay. All right, he's answering those questions. Well, good to see he answered all the questions and almost the same as us. All right. I think
We did have somebody who was excited about the Sonics. Caleb G. Fuck yeah, Sonics, baby.
Fuck yeah, Sonics, baby.
This isn't like the old, what is it, Destination Devi streams. I don't remember who was that. Mike A. Who every time like Ray and them would talk about basketball, he'd lose his fucking mind. It's good to see our audience is mature. Can handle some supersonics every now and then.
Good for everybody here. Better than not winning. That's all right. Last question. Let me just make sure. This might be the last question, Mike. I can see. So, if you guys have a really good one or a super chat, we'll get to it. Otherwise, this is the last one. We got one with eggplants, so I got to give you one more. Damn it. 12-10 half. I'm assuming this is 12 team, start 10, half PPR and a half tight end premium.
Yeah. 2 seed.
Pittman, a warp difference maker for 2 weeks versus Noah Brown. I lost Kirk. He wants my first and second.
So is he asking, should he trade for Michael Pittman for a first and a second?
Oh, yeah, that's what he's saying, first and a second for Pittman. Yep.
And he is a warp difference maker. Yes, I would send a first and a second for him here at playoff time.
So, yeah, as a 2 seed in the playoffs with a need at receiver.
Versus rolling out the unquestionable Noah Brown every week. Fuck yes. Sign me up, Michael Pittman.
Listen, and I liked Noah Brown at, the Royce Freeman level in start sit, right? When we're talking about Noah Brown, even with all these other options gone, he didn't have a fucking catch last week, Mike. Like,
yeah. I'm
not risking that. So, by the way, I got a half PPR league pulled up. And Michael Pittman, wide receiver 12, from weeks 9 to 14 in this format. So I think right now, like a first and Pittman and Dynasty value is about right. If the tax is my second, and this is a team I'm already in a bye with, so we're talking about this is a 208, 108 worst case scenario, right? I'm in. Sign me up. Go do it. Like this is one of those where if I end up like screwing up by adding the extra second here to make a chance to go win, I'll forgo that second every single time to have a chance to really win this title. Because if you win this title, you'll look back at this trade and be ecstatic about it.
Yeah, I saw a YouTube comment on one of our shorts where I was talking about Michael Pittman and just the fact he's played really well this year, and the Colts are going to have to fucking pay him. He's going to get a bag. If the Colts don't give him a bag for whatever god-awful reason, somebody else is going to give this fucking guy a bag. Adam, just warms my heart. From week 10, 12 targets, 13 targets, 16 targets, 11 targets. 8 catches, 10 catches, 11 catches, 8 catches, 8 catches, 8 catches, 8 catches. What more do you want? Now, I'm not comparing Michael Pittman Jr. to fucking Justin Jefferson or Marvin Harrison Jr. or fucking Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb or A.J. Brown or Tyreek Hill. All right, pump the brakes, but there's not a lot of more of those guys out there you can list as far as fantasy production for this fucking year that doesn't include Michael Pittman. And Adam, you hit it on the warp thing. Like, this is a dude you want.
Well, and you just think about it too, like since the takeover of the injured Anthony Richardson. Now, for those that are saying that A-Rich was the only reason, I got news for you. The first 3 weeks of the year, 11, 12, and 11 targets. Okay, this dude's going to earn targets no matter the quarterback, but there is a little more pass heaviness with the Gardner Minshew-led offense. Starting at week 6, Mike, 14, 13, 12, 13, 16, 11. Like that's significant weeks down the stretch here where he's got a chance to earn not just double digits, 15, 16 targets. You know how many guys can earn 15, 16 targets in a game? You don't have to get to your toes probably, when you start counting that out.
Do you know his worst game in fantasy point per game finish?
Since when?
Finish? Since week 6, since you brought that up?
I don't think he's been a wide receiver 3.
Worst finish.
I was going to say not
16.
Is it that? Yeah, I was going to say he's not been a wide receiver 3, so he's been a high-end wide receiver 2.
Worst. Yeah, first and a second for Michael Pittman if I just lost Christian Kirk. And my choice is starting Noah Brown instead. Fuck that. Here you go. I'll throw Noah Brown in to get the deal over. Like, you take him.
Here.
You can take Christian Kirk, too, if you really want.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes you got to – Mike, you know what? Real quick on this point. I think – a lot of times we talk about how, like in best ball, we want to keep little wins with little edges here and there. And even if it's in lineup, we should be doing the same thing, right? Little wins here and there. I think one of the things that, if you think about the way you live your life, right? Whether you're a person that really strictly budgets or not, when you live your day-to-day life, like that's when you're going to be picking up these little edges. I kind of consider it. Mike, when you go on vacation, do you, like, with a fine-tooth comb, think about every dollar you spend?
I do not.
And why is that? Because you're trying to enjoy that time. Right, you're on vacation. I think that's the way that I'm approaching, especially as we get to this point of trying to secure the bag, win the title, is like my overpays are going to have to happen here. And if that's what it's going to take for me to go win the title, that was a worthwhile investment. It's not even like I was on vacation and just blew that fucking money. I got the memories and stuff. But
yeah,
right, like you actually can win more money back doing that. So when it comes to overpaying, if that's the way I have to do it to win a title, I'll do it. To your point, like when we get rid of dynasty value for win now pieces. Fuck it, man. It's redraft now for a little bit, and then we'll go rebuild later.
I do question how Jalen Waddle, Tank Dell, Jordan Addison, DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, and Jackson Smith and Jigba are all still ranked ahead of Michael Pittman Jr. on Keep Trade Cut.
Can I tell you how? Because how that thing works is they have a keep, a trade, and a cut, and then they have a bunch of people that rank them, and everybody apparently fucking hates clicking the button on Michael Pittman outside of cut. So there you have it.
I guess so.
There's the simple math. One quarterback start 18 league. This is the perfect walk-off. T. Williams, thank you for the 3 eggplants. Thank you for the question. This is going to end it. God, this is so good. Send Howell in an early 24th third for Purdy. I have Burrow, Stroud, and Stafford. I have a first-round bye. I feel like Howell has a rough schedule, and Purdy has more job security. This is what I would say. Think about this. It's a one quarterback. Start 8. I don't care about, like, the quarterbacks at all if it's an 8-team 1 QB. Right? So, like, this third is irrelevant. Yes, fine. If you prefer Purdy, I'll happily do this. It's a quarterback for a quarterback. I'm giving up nothing of consequence in this third. Here you go. Yes. I'm not going to do the crossover thing with skill players and quarterbacks in a fucking league like this. Hell no. But, yeah, this is absolutely. Give me Brock Purdy.
Well said. The only thing I'll add to it is T. Williams. We see you all the time. You're always asking questions, man. Patreon.com/South Harmon. Come join some real leagues, man. We got featured leagues. We got some friends.
If you have interest in a
Superflex leagues,
right? If you have interest in a 12-team, you have interest in finding out what the Superflex thing's all about. You just don't understand it here, sitting listening. We got you, man. And on that note,
we'll introduce you to the good one, right? It's like the first time you actually got to drink alcohol that was, good. You know what I mean? Tasted good.
You weren't just like chasing it down so you get the buzz.
Yeah, you weren't sneaking like Boone's Farm, or you weren't like buying
right. It's middle of winter. You got the big hoodie. You're trying to put stuff in your shirt. Yeah,
right. That
everybody's
fucking
house.
Steel Reserve that tasted like ass.
211 Steel Reserves. Listen, man, I know all about the 211s back in college. Oh my God.
This is like the first time you had a good beer, you had a good wine. If you're Adam, a good bourbon. Me, a good vodka.
Yeah.
Right? It's not fucking Hawkeye vodka. Which
all
is
of a sudden,
shit.
you've developed a palate, a real tasting palate. Yeah.
So we'll get you into it. We'll get you past the 8 and 10 team dog shit. We'll get you into a 12 team. We'll get you going.
So, T. Williams, listen. Can I tell you this is how it starts, though, Mike? Like, here, T. Williams, like, this conversation is, listen, everybody starts off drinking whatever they can get their hands on, right? It's a fucking Mike's Hard, a Smirnoff. We don't judge, right? A straight-up gas station vodka, right? The 21% stuff that's in a plastic bottle. Hey, it's fine. Then you eventually, turn 21 or you get a fake ID, right? And you can start dabbling in some other stuff. You're at that spot right now. Let us teach you the high end, the 12 team.
So he's gone from 8 team, which was Hawkeye vodka, or whatever other trash vodka.
And he's a vodka man with you. Speak your truth, yeah.
He's now gone to 10 team Superflex, so he's like at the Smirnoff table.
The mid shelf, yeah, right.
He's like Smirnoff.
Mid-low,
he's like basic white girl. Like, that's what
you're not fucking around with Burnett's and Hawkeye anymore, right?
We'll get you to the good stuff, all right, buddy. We'll get you up to that Grey Goose.
Let me show you the Grey Goose, the Ciroc,
A little Svedka. No, they still put that on the mid shelf. I don't know why. Fuck y'all. Svedka's top shelf.
Yes,
top
all
shelf.
3 inches of it,
He knows. We spent a lot of time together in Canada.
Yeah, believe it or not, like, you can't see it, but I can just right?
Hey, Dr.
Like,
B's seen me in my underwear, so he knows too.
speaking of pause,
Pause.
speaking of pause, man. Let's hold on. Let me get a good little beat out of here. We appreciate everybody tapping in. Whether you know got to see Mike's Hard or you were thinking about the time you had your first Mike's Hard. Here we are. It's lemonade either way. So I love the UV blue guy talking about the finer things in life. T-Rock brings up a good point. I miss the Mike, the UV blue Mike, you know, the guy that I like first started doing shows with. Every time you have a drink, it'd be fucking blue as hell. Like you just put food coloring in it.
I'm sophisticated now. Like I'm a straight guy now. Straight guy, like I drink it straight.
Flowosaurus is all, you know, confused.
I would be too. Would be a Wednesday night fucking AMA without some confusion, some off-color comments, innuendos.
Yep.
Name it.
On that note, trying to get it back on the rails. 12 teams. T. Williams.
12 teams.
Anybody else? You need help with that? We got you. This is what we do. 12 teams, right?
Dr. V, yes, get out of here. Get out of here before we get any 14s.
Man, and Canton. And on that note, we will see you back here, same time, same place, for the same debauchery next week on Wednesday AMA. We're out of this thing. Peace.